Yeah, and yet he's out there, and that's what we're doing. We're out there.
He's having fun. We're having fun.
We're having fun, and really, as I said before, we could be watching TV, we could be putting our nose in a book, which nothing wrong with that. There are a lot of good books.
And there's a lot of good TVs.
There are a lot of TVs, and TVs these days, you can get your plasma, and you can get your high def, and you can really invest.
And they give us guidance.
Well, and if we wanted to pay for Netflix, we could watch movies around the clock, and if we wanted to have cable or satellite dishes, we could plug our ears and our eyes into the screaming blue electron box.
The blue flickering mother.
Well, yeah, but instead,
I love my mother.
Instead we got on a bus, we sat our asses on the hard seats of the bus, looked at the grim faces of Cincinnati going to another job on a Saturday. We saw them come up from over the Rhine, their grim faces saying, "Don't fuck with me. I gotta come home from work."
I maybe should have told you this sooner. The whole time I just wanted good bratwurst.
Well, I know. And when you started asking about bratwurst, I thought, how German of you.
I will always regret not having asked the people on the bus how they felt about bratwurst. It was real. The people on the bus were real.
Well, I'll bet some of the people on the bus would have answered your question.
I thought you were going to say, I bet some of the people on the bus were bratwurst.
Well, that was art saves lives. You're wearing a button on your vest or a pin. It's a pin. Above the pen, below the curve, next to the buttonhole.
In the sense that if people lose their sense of awe, there comes a visitation, and that's from like the oldest writing on the planet. That's what art's for, to give that sense of awe.
Well, I don't know about
That's
that.
what bratwurst is for.
I don't know about bratwurst or art. I just know that when I'm on a bus, I'm looking around. I'm smelling the smells. I'm hearing the sounds. I know not to fart on the bus. I know that that's a bad thing to do, and I'm socially well enough adapted that I wouldn't do that to my fellow passengers. On an elevator, maybe, if I was alone. But, no, I mean, seriously, when you talk about art saving lives, we had this conversation earlier while we were eating that meal of fresh, bratwurst and sauerkraut and sourdough rolls. They weren't sourdough. They were really nice French rolls. They were good. It was good bread and tomatoes.
I don't believe in sourdough.
You've never been to San Francisco, obviously. Yeah, anyway.
I play the bagpipes with my nose in San Francisco.
But have you brought sourdough bread back from San Francisco?
Never.
On the plane, between your knees?
I've smuggled grain where I gobbled into the United States from Germany.
Well,
but we should talk about lofty theoretical stuff. We should, as though we've been interviewed about the significance of our work.
Well, you look pretty lofty holding your Far Side mug, which has the dinosaurs on it smoking, and it says the real reason they went extinct. I mean, how serious can I take you?
I'll put it down.
And you've got a pterodactyl somewhere up your sleeve, I think.
The talking pterodactyl. What did the pterodactyl say?
Well, I'm curious about what it had to say, but I'm also just as curious about how the parrot responded. And think about that, the parrot, sitting on the shoulder of the pirate with the steering wheel down his pants, driving his nuts, or something like that. And, these are jokes. They have punchlines, but we don't care to share them with you. We're just sharing punchlines and no jokes. Art saves lives. I was thinking about music and how I had this friend. He's not a real close friend anymore, but we were neighbors growing up, and I see him from time to time in the hood. He lives nearby, it's not really a hood, it's a nice neighborhood, and it's middle class and all that, and it's safe and all that mostly. And he plays violin in the symphony and plays in restaurants with quartet, jazz kind of stuff, Stefano Rapelli, and the great kind of swing era kind of jazz. They call themselves the faux Frenchmen, and they're four of them. Yeah, and none of them are French, and it's just a really cool little combo. And yet, what I've often thought about him is if he hadn't discovered music at age 4, 5, 6, whenever he started on the violin, probably Suzuki method, I don't know for sure, but he started really young, and everybody in his family played music. German family, his mother was a doctor, she was the main breadwinner in the family. He picked up the banjo at age 13 or 14, was playing tunes within a couple of weeks. He's played banjo on stage with the symphony.
What's the point?
This guy would not have survived if he hadn't found music. I mean, this is a guy who spends so much time doing music that if you took that out of his life, maybe he would have survived, but I wouldn't bet on it. He'd have been tripped out on some other intense ride, and it probably wouldn't have served him as well.
What's to say there's anything wrong with people becoming specific corporate insects if they become very well trained for a specific task to live and die in a cube farm in a giant office building breathing argon?
Well, danger crickets.
Aren't they happy?
The danger crickets. I mean, that's a kind of insect.
I'm trying to do the devil's advocate thing here.
Well, no, I have no problem with what you're saying. I mean, if somebody wants to, push numbers into a machine, my brother is a statistician. I think what he does essentially is roll the dice and rake in the chips. He takes risks. He takes calculated risks. And he knows how to set up experiments to do that. He knows how to get the results that somebody else wants. And he does it often enough and reliably enough that they pay him big bucks to do it. You and me, we have a lot of time. We can't find jobs that pay us money because what would we do if we had money anyway? We buy boats or horses, spend it on cigarettes, coffee. Every day we spend...
I'd produce a film.
Well, let's do it. All right. And so maybe we're saving lives. Maybe somebody in our audience feels for a moment that they could try what we've tried. Maybe we've broken some new wind. No, I mean seriously. Bratwurst discovered here on the Miami University campus. Is it possible? A little white sausage-like thing? I don't know.
Maybe we should try and give it a lofty title.
Yeah.
Or something deliberately artsy-fartsy.
Well, if we come up with something before we're finished, we probably could. You know, the last one, we didn't come up with a title until after we performed it a time or two. And somebody else said that that was the title.
Maybe we should take credit.
Well, you know, credit, that's another area
We
where...
should take credit where credit's due.
Well, that's another area where...
We should take credit where credit's due someone else.
Yeah, well, you know, we can learn something. The collaborative model here is that it doesn't matter who the author is.
As long as we get credit.
Yeah, and make the big bucks and get to stand on stage and hear the applause. You know, if we don't hear applause at the end, that's when we're disappointed. That's, you know, dead silence would be
Everybody's obliged to applause.
dead silence would be okay.
We can even build... We can even build in our own.
Yeah, I think we can. You know, it's these machines that allow us to express ourselves so freely.